comments and the and Commissioner Cohen-Higgins is very eloquent in her detailed debate. I too came to this with a very open mind. Look, was in the legislature for a long time doing health policy. It's the second time I say I was in the legislature on the dais. It's for those that are counting. And I do recognize the benefits that adding fluoride to our water brought to the population back in the 50s. Do recognize why it was done. It was done in a time where oral health was not in its best place. It was done in a time to help underserved communities because of the lack of fluoridization in other products. And I think it did have a benefit. But again, it had a benefit before we started adding fluoride to so many other of our food and products that we use. And actually fluoride, I think, happens, if I'm not mistaken, Surgeon General, I think even happens naturally. It happens naturally in some of our foods and that it comes from our soil. So with that, I look to the debate that we've had, the conversation that we've had, recognize that fluoridization in our toothpaste came in the 1950s, then Dade County added fluoridization to their water, then cereal started adding more and more fluoridization. So I say all that to tell you that I think now in 2025 seems like an oversaturation of fluoridization. And as a non-doctor, I appreciate Commissioner Gilbert's comments. And I think that's exactly where I kind of fall. Because the reality is, I don't know. I don't know if there is a correlation between IQ or developmental disabilities, or whatever the case may be, and fluoridization. But could there be? I don't know that either. But just in case there is, I tend to fall on the side of erring on the side of caution, correct? You know, listen, why take that risk? Why take a risk in an environment, in a world that we live in, that we know how much fluoridization is already out there, that we know it's in our food, it's in our food supply, and so forth. So for that reason, Commissioner Gonzalez, I too agree with Commissioner Gilbert on this, where I wish the process could have been a little bit differently, but it was done well within the rules and regulations of this county commission. These are things that I fight against all the time, but the reality is that it was done in a manner where it's legal and it was transparent, a manner that I wish was done a little differently, but I agree. But just because of that doesn't mean that we stop the debate and not have the conversation. I think people have had, my office has been flooded with calls on both sides, not just on the get rid of fluoridization. I've been flooded on both sides of this issue. So this is where my office had the ability to do research. I did my own research. We looked into it. And I honestly think that even if you take a vote today, my colleagues that may be voting against this, I don't necessarily think is a bad vote. I just think for me, we need to be, I'm going to vote on the side of caution. And that's why, after serious consideration, after talking to numerous doctors and medical professionals across the state, I think it's a safe vote to ensure that we try to protect the health and well-being of our children. And if we see that this has a negative impact on maybe on the oral health of our population, we can come back and have that conversation at that point. But I don't see why today we cannot support your ordinance moving forward. So for that reason, I'm going to vote yes today.
Thank you, Mr. Senator. We're going to give